Tim Legler, ESPN NBA analyst. We've talked a lot leading up to the draft about where the Sixers were at number 3, Tim, but all of a sudden they are at number 1, and, they gave up a pick next year to get there. They flip-flop picks this year. Would you have rather just seen them sit at number 3? I know you were a big fan of Josh Jackson, or is Markelle Fultz is the juice worth the squeeze in this one?
Guys, I'll be honest with you. It's hard to be definitive in this draft about who you think is going to be the best player 5 years from now. I mean, I'm pretty certain how I feel about Josh Jackson and Markelle Fultz. I think they're both going to be all-star players in this league quickly and be guys that can really, help your franchise go a long way. I think what it came down to for Philly is they looked at both guys, and you look at Fultz, who I think at the position he plays might be a better fit and make more sense for Philadelphia if they're trying to round out their starting 5 to get a guard with size that's got some individual offensive ability. I mean, Markelle Fultz, I've actually, seen him in the gym and worked him out, and I know what he brings to the table athletically. He's a playmaker. He's a scorer. He can shoot. He's got, escape moves, one-on-one moves, a very high IQ. He's a gym rat. Josh Jackson is a guy that's an elite defensive player. Immediately, day one, he makes you better defensively. Offense has come a long way in a year. He still has a lot of room for improvement there with his shooting, but he's a great playmaker, great passer, handles the ball well for a forward. But defensively, he's just by far the most competitive person in this draft. I think the Sixers looked at it and thought that Fultz maybe is a safer pick for them because he rounds out your lineup in a way that you need. You desperately need guard help on this team. Josh Jackson is another wing. They've got a lot of wings. They've got guys on this team that are long and athletic and handle the ball. Josh Jackson is all of those things. I just think they felt to get Fultz and guarantee that you're going to get him, it was worth it for them to trade the future pick to make sure you get a point guard that you think can be an elite level franchise type player at that position, more so than securing another wing player. I think that's how they viewed it. And I just think it's really difficult to know who's going to be the best player 4 or 5 years from now. I think both of these guys will be in a very short list of guys in that discussion, but it could very well be Josh Jackson. It's just tough. I think Sixers went with what they feel is a safer decision, which is to round out your starting lineup by getting guard help because they desperately need it. They're very thin. Maybe the thinnest in the league at that position.
Tim Legler with us. Tim, do you have a problem with what the Sixers had to give up, or did they not give up as much as you thought they would have to give up?
No, look, again, it comes down to how much they targeted him. If that's the case, I don't think that it's anything that, you're going to be worried about, what they gave up to get him. That second, first-round pick, there's so much uncertainty with the picks that are off in the future, what they're going to turn into, what they end up being. I think for them, clearly, and Brian Colangelo, he looked at Markelle Fultz and said, we got to do whatever we have to get him. And I can get why he feels that way because, like I said, it's not often you get a point guard that comes into the league that has this kind of combination of size, athletic ability, and then skill with his handle and his shooting and his vision, because all of those things are there too. And he's also a good kid that I think gets it. He wants to be great. That's a big part of this. He's not taking anything for granted. He's going to be able to grow with this young core. So I don't think if you really think this is the guy and he can be an all-star in this league for many years at that position, I don't think that's too much to give up because those future first-rounders are so uncertain what they're going to turn into. And if this is the guy that you feel like you need now, then I think that's fine. I don't like the move. And it actually also makes a lot of sense for Boston, too, because it gives them more flexibility. They pick up an additional pick. They may be certain that the Lakers are going to take Lonzo Ball and maybe Josh Jackson's the guy that they really covet, and they do that. Or, look, I'm hearing things today that maybe Boston moves the 3 pick plus a couple of guys and tries to get Paul George or Jimmy Butler. That might be also what Danny Ainge has up his sleeve, and it might take that to get Paul George. So I think there's a lot of talk out there about what Boston's going to do. It's not guaranteed they're going to draft a guy with that pick, and they could have traded number 1 for Paul George, but this way, by making this trade first, they actually get an additional pick in the future, which makes a lot of sense, particularly if you're not going to keep the pick anyway. You replenish that by adding a pick with this trade.
How much of all of the assets that they had accumulated kind of adds to this trade? This trade essentially was the Michael Carter-Williams pick is the Laker pick. The pick swap allowed them to go from 5 to 3. If they don't get that pick swap, they probably can't make this deal. So how much of, them being in the situation that they had to go through the last 3 years allowed them to make this deal?
Oh, no question about it. And look, this is what it's all coming to fruition now, right? Over the last few drafts, this is what this has all been about. And now you get back-to-back consecutive drafts, number one pick. You're right. What they went through set themselves up to make this decision. And now you've got Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. It looks like Markelle Fultz in the fold. Dario Saric came over. He lived up to expectations, maybe even surpassed them. So your future is incredibly bright. But look, there's a long way from looking at guys that you've drafted on paper and looking at potential, and then putting them all together, having them stay healthy, and being able to build this thing moving forward without minutes restrictions and without limitations, and let these guys go play. That's a whole other thing. So let's see if this works out. I think they've done a phenomenal job at identifying the guys that they want, positioning themselves to acquire the young players that they targeted and that they really need to take this thing to another level in a few years. Now it's a matter of getting them all on the court. So it looks great on paper. The city should be excited. The fan base should be excited. I get it. Now let's see how long it takes for them to actually put together a product that's a competitive team where these guys are out there together growing and staying healthy, because that's a whole other issue, obviously, for this franchise and what they've gone through in recent memory. One of the things I do like about their team, guys, if you're in the Eastern Conference right now, if you're really in the NBA right now, you don't necessarily need to be great right now. You need to think about getting to that level in about 3 to 4 years. When LeBron James slows down, maybe Cleveland doesn't look the way they look now. Maybe Golden State doesn't look the way they look now. And that's what you're trying to position yourself for. And I think that's what teams like Philadelphia are doing. And it's smart, because the horizon needs to be, and the time frame needs to be then when some of this stuff at the top starts to dissipate. Because right now it is a road jam up there, and it's hard to break through. And you're going to see Cleveland and Golden State dominate for the foreseeable future. There's going to be some superstars and some star players that are going to change teams, and I don't even know if those guys changing teams is going to be enough to unseat what's at the top right now. So for Philly, it's fine, man. You don't need to be great this year. You just need to continue to show improvement. And I think if anything else, they just need to get these guys on the court this year together and see what it looks like, because everybody's been waiting to see that. They've got the players. Now let's see what the product's going to start to look like.
Tim, the last time, we're talking with Tim Legler, the last time you were on, you said maybe 3-4 years down the road, the Sixers could be the team to overtake the Cavs. But what reasonable expectations do you see for this year's team?
Well, look, let's take a look at what we're talking about in the Eastern Conference right now. Okay, Boston. I just mentioned number one. They're the number one team in the East this year. They're going to make a move, I think, to try to get Paul George and Jimmy Butler, and they might sign Gordon Hayward, which is going to put them really looking Cleveland eye to eye. So Cleveland's not going anywhere with their core. You got Boston making moves like that. I think Toronto's a team. We may have already seen the best of what they are, because I don't know if their backcourt's going to be any better than they are. Kyle Lowry's a free agent anyway. He might not even be there. Washington's obviously a team that's got a nice core nucleus for their starting lineup. Their bench is thin, but they're going to be in the mix. After that, you look at teams like Chicago, Indiana, which looks like they're going to be in rebuild mode now with Paul George leaving. Milwaukee is a young up-and-coming team, and then you got Atlanta. Those are the teams that made the playoffs this year. So Philly has a chance to challenge not only the teams, I think, at the bottom of the Eastern Conference playoff race that were there this year. So I think some of those teams take a step back. I think they're going to be right there in the mix with teams like Miami, Charlotte, and Detroit. I think Philly doesn't make the playoffs this year, maybe not even next year, but I think you're going to see a team this year be competitive into the second half of the season, where it's at least something that we're talking about. And again, I'm not a type person that's going to get wrapped up in making the playoffs, not making the playoffs. It's not that important for them to make the playoffs this coming year or even the next year, because I still think there's going to be teams at the top that it's not going to really matter. Now, you want to get playoff experience. I understand that. So if they do happen to get there in the next couple of years, it's good to get that experience. But they're not going to make serious inroads in winning a couple of rounds or maybe get into a conference finals for 3-4 years down the road. But this year, I think you're going to see a much more competitive team, and a team I think is going to be in the mix with, say, 6 through 11. I think the Sixers can be in that mix.
Tim, Mike said it too. The fact that they get the number 1 overall pick for the second year in a row, the fact that this was one of the last pieces to come through from the Michael Carter-Williams trade. My question is, does this validate then what Sam Hinkie did? How do you now feel about what Hinkie did now that you kind of see it playing out?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you have to look. It's terrible to go through it, and it's I'm not one of those guys that believes ever in not trying to go out there every night and try to win. But I also understand the NBA has made it prohibitive to get better and to add to your team unless you do what teams have done in recent memory, which is exactly what the Sixers have done. And so it's worked. Here we are now. Now, look, it's still not at the level that you want as far as wins and losses if you're a Sixers fan. But at least now I think people are starting to understand why they went through this and how valuable and how important these picks are. And if you make the right ones, you're setting yourself up for some serious long-term success. The other thing that they're going to do, if these guys are as good as advertised and they can stay healthy, you're going to now make it a much more attractive situation to bring in a free agent, which Philadelphia traditionally has had an incredibly difficult time doing. Normally, every summer when guys come up and their names come up for free agency, the big-name guys, Philly's not even mentioned in the visits that these guys take or teams that look like viable options. I think that can change when you start to get a young core together that can win and stay on the court. That's going to make it more attractive for free agents. So it does validate it. It's a very long process. It probably took a little bit longer in this case than some teams. But the bottom line is it looks like now when you look up at the end of the day, when you have talent like Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and potentially Markelle Fultz coming into the fold at the same time, I think Sixers fans will say when it's all said and done, 3-4 years down the road from now, it was absolutely 100% worth it to be cellar dwellers for a while they built this, because you're going to have a very exciting team on their hands. And now they've still got to round it out. They need more shooting. They need more bench help. But at least the guys that are going to drive the train every night are could be potential elite players, like longtime all-stars in this league.
And so with that in mind, then, do you foresee more NBA teams following suit as they look at the Sixers and the benefits that they reaped ultimately out of this?
Yeah, you don't have a choice. And actually, if you want to know the truth, I think what's going on right now with the top-heavy status of this league, where you have two teams meeting 3 times in a row in the finals, and if Cleveland and Golden State keep their core together, they could meet 4, 5, 6 times in a row in the finals. It's actually even more encouraging for teams to do what the Sixers did, because you're beating your head against the wall to a certain extent. It's the haves and the have-nots in the NBA, and there's very few haves. So the teams that are the have-nots, when you look at these drafts, it's almost your responsibility as an organization to position yourself so you can improve through the draft and collect these assets. Some teams do it better than others, and some teams, they don't whiff when they get opportunities. One of the reasons Golden State is in the position they're in right now, they were bad. They were a team that was amassing lottery picks, and they just happened to hit home runs on all of the big ones they had to make. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, even Harrison Barnes, who started for them for several years. Draymond Green was a second-round pick. This was an organization that built themselves that way, and then it attracted, because they were so good, they attracted a guy like Kevin Durant to now position them to be a dynasty. But they did it through the draft, and they were bad for a while to get there. Let's hope that Philadelphia has as much luck with the picks that they've made.
Tim Legler is with us here looking at this trade, and there's a lot of other things. I mean, there was a report, I believe Stephen A. Smith mentioned this morning about Jimmy Butler, that they called the Sixers for 3 for Butler. Would you have preferred the Sixers get a more veteran player and make that kind of deal, or do you rather go this route, take your chances with a number 1 pick that's really an unknown, or a veteran player that you know a lot about in Jimmy Butler?
I think I'd rather have kept the pick and take the pick. There's some things about Jimmy Butler. Look, the guy's obviously proven that he can play at a really high level in this league, and I think he was a better defender before he started being a big-time scorer. People label him, a two-way player, and I think he still can when he wants to, but I think he still takes a lot of plays off now that he's asked to get 25 a night. I don't know that you want to bring in a guy that's in that stage of his career right now to play with a team that's still several years away. I think he's a better fit on a team potentially that has a chance this year to go deep into the playoffs, potentially go to a conference final or a final. I think, and maybe even have a little bit of a different role in that team and not having to score as much. If he comes to Philly, I think it's still built around him offensively. And if it's not, I don't think he's going to be happy. And even then, you're still not winning enough games for a guy at that stage of his career to give up a pick like that. So I think based on the fact Ben Simmons hasn't played a game in this league, Joel Embiid has 31 games under his belt, I'd rather grow with another guy that I'm not going to ever say a guy is 100% certain going to be a star, but Markelle Fultz is about as close as I've seen at that position. And I love the kid's work ethic. So I'd rather grow with 3 guys that are kind of in the same boat. They're all starting out their career at the same time and make that my core, because there's no rush to get there. If you add a Jimmy Butler to your roster, I mean, it's almost like you're instantly ramping up your expectations this year. And I don't know that that's the smartest approach.
Tim, also a report out there about a 3-team type of deal that would include maybe Kevin Love to the Sixers. Do you see him as a fit with this young core, or how could he fit in?
Well, here's the thing. If you have Kevin Love, I mean, I'm assuming you're saying Ben Simmons is going to play the 3. You're going to play Joel Embiid at the center, Kevin Love playing the power forward spot. If you bring in a guy like Kevin Love and you're playing that much size at the same time, number one, I think, what about Dario Saric? Does he just continue to be a bench player? And number two, very few teams are playing that kind of size across the board. Defensively in this league, it's almost impossible to play lineups like that at the same time because of the way you get spread out and the way the teams have 4 3-point shooters on the court, a lot of possessions, and they're taking 35 and 40 of those a game. That to me would be a real challenge for that team to have to defend. You're going to be asking Kevin Love to do a lot of things defensively out on the floor that he's not capable of doing. So I think that necessarily doesn't get my juices flowing. And again, Kevin Love is a guy that, he fits a role on a really good team that's got super high expectations the way he is in Cleveland right now. In Philadelphia, you got a guy that's coming from a winning situation like he's been in for the last 3 years and thrown into a situation where they're continuing to grow together. And I don't know that you've got a surplus of bigs that's going to make it a little bit more difficult. I think Kevin Love's in a perfect spot. Now, they might try to move him because they're I understand they're even in talks with Indiana about Paul George, and the only guy they can give up that makes sense is Kevin Love salary-wise. I don't think Indiana would want him back in return. You want more than that. You want to reboot the system, and Kevin Love doesn't give you that opportunity. So I'm not in love with him being here. I think that'd be tough to figure out a way to play all those guys together and still be good enough defensively and quick enough and fast enough up and down the floor if you played all 3 of those guys at the same time.
And you are so close to saying you're not in love with Love.
Yeah, I was. It almost came out. I stopped myself.
A couple quick, talking with Tim Legler here. And by the way, Tim's got a basketball camp coming to our area that he'll tell you about in just a second. But obviously, you bring Fultz in, and with Ben Simmons, Joel, and Dario, I guess, do you see Ben Simmons still as the guy that should dominate the ball? Or do you see Fultz now as I'd much rather see, because there's so much conversation, and Colangelo kind of talked about it today, like, I don't care if he's a point forward or a point center. Do you see Simmons still dominating the ball?
Not to the extent that maybe they talk about, particularly if you had a guy like Markelle Fultz. Markelle Fultz can play off the ball because he's got 3-point range, and he's got a nice stroke, and he can catch and shoot, but he's very creative with the basketball, and he's got this sort of stop-start, herky-jerky component to his game that's really tough to defend. So I'm not saying you put the ball exclusively in his hands, because that takes away from a real strength to Ben Simmons. One of the things I've said about Ben Simmons all along is I just don't buy point anything with him. Like, I don't call LeBron James point forward. What these guys are, Antetokounmpo falls into that category. Paul George falls into that category. What these guys are ball-handling forwards. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great luxury to have when you do it at the level that these guys do. So Ben Simmons taking it off the glass on a defensive rebound, the luxury, Draymond Green falls into this category. The luxury you have to have him get it, and you don't have to waste any time with an outlet pass, because he can just blow it out of the pack and get up the floor with his straight-ahead speed and his vision. That's a great luxury. And you can even create offensive sets where Ben Simmons is your primary ball handler, and you get him involved in some pick and roll. That's a great luxury. But to tell me that after every dead ball or a made basket, the ball's going to come into Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz is just running the wing, spotting up, that you're not utilizing Markelle Fultz as strongly as you can. And I just think that puts way too much pressure on a 6'10" player to have to consider himself a point guard. I think what you would have a situation would be multiple guys that can take it off the glass and handle it initially. And after dead balls and made baskets, most of the time I'd have the ball in the hands of Fultz, but then you'd also have some packages put in where, hey, Simmons is going to be the initial ball handler here, and anything he gets off the defensive glass, let him go. That's like what Golden State does when Green gets it.
Right.
Klay Thompson and Steph Curry are running the wings. That's one of the most potent fast breaks this league has ever seen with your power forward handling the basketball. So that's a component that Ben Simmons brings, but I don't know. I view him as your full-time point guard. If that's the case, I don't know what you want to bring in Markelle Fultz for.
Hey, last one for me. Does the losing – a lot of people talk about 9 wins and Simmons, no tournament. Does the losing bother you at all?
You mean with Fultz?
Yeah, he won 9 games with that team up there.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and I don't want to be too harsh on anybody, but if anybody watched University of Washington play this year, and you saw the level of disorganization and coaching that was going on there, it really is a head-scratcher. I said the same thing about Ben Simmons. I mean, these guys weren't getting helped with the situation and system that they were in from a coaching standpoint. So I wouldn't be too harsh to judge Markelle Fultz. You're asking a kid that's a dynamic scorer to play in a situation where there's very little defensive structure. There's very little offensive structure. It's very much a pickup style basketball. It's a miracle that they even got the kid out there from Washington, D.C., to Matha High School. How he ends up at the University of Washington is a head scratcher in the first place. And he gets out there, and basically they just let him go for 4 or 5 months. So I wouldn't be too harsh. I've been in the gym with this kid, and I know that he's a winner. He's a leader, and he's a gym rat, and he's a worker, and you're not going to have a problem putting him into a system with a guy like Brett Brown, who I saw a dramatic improvement this year in the way Brett was handling the team, because he finally had expectations and he had players to basically execute what he wanted to do. I mean, I think people that were hard on Brett Brown for a few years, you didn't see a lot of player movement, ball movement. You didn't see a lot of organization offensively or a plan or an identity. You saw a lot of that this year, and that team moved the ball, and they were fun to watch because he finally had some pieces to do that. And now you're going to add another one to it. So I wouldn't overreact to the fact that they won 9 games at Washington, because if you watch them play, it was really a disservice to a kid like Markelle Fultz to be playing in a system like that.
So maybe Markelle Fultz didn't get a lot of help, but Tim, it looks like boys and girls ages 8 to 16 can get some help from the one, the only Tim Legler at your basketball camp. Tell us a little bit about that. It's coming up at the end of July.
Yeah, it is, guys. I'm really proud of what we've done with it. I moved into the area 10 years ago. This will be the 10th anniversary of the Tim Legler basketball camp. It's July 31st to August 4th. It is at the Gloucester County Institute of Technology, which is in Sewell, New Jersey, right off of Route 55 in South Jersey. Great facility, 2 gyms, air-conditioned. I got an incredible staff. I got some of the best high school coaches in the area help me run the camp, and we've been sold out year after year. And actually, registration is at an all-time high this year, this early. So it's going to fill up pretty quickly. Boys and girls, 8 to 16. We really it's a serious basketball camp, though. It's not daycare. That doesn't mean you can't be a beginner, but we're going to work you, and you're really going to learn a lot from myself. I'm hands-on there every minute of the camp. We're running drills. I got a whistle around my neck, reffing games, doing stations. Every aspect of the camp I'm directly responsible for. So I'm there the whole time, and it's just fun to see the kids every year keep coming back and bringing friends. So I'm very proud of it. If you want any information on it, if you're out there listening, or if you're a parent, want to get some information on it, just go to the website. The best way, it's timleglerbasketballcamp.com, or you can call 856-223-1322. Either one. It's the camp line, or go on the website. All the information you need is on there. You can print out the form right there, register quickly, and look forward to getting you signed up, but do it quick because we're filling up pretty fast.
Some of those instructors include Lauren Legler and Ryan Legler.
Well, Lauren Legler actually has been helping the last couple of years. She's going to be a senior at Newman University next year. She's had a great career there. She comes in and she loves working with the younger ones, especially the girls, the 8- and 9-year-old girls. She does a great job with them, teaching them the fundamentals and helping them with their shooting stroke. Ryan hasn't gotten involved in that yet. I told him this summer he's got to keep his job at Uncle Bill's at the shore. He's got to make money to get ready for college this year.
I love it.
All right, Tim Legler. By the way, again, it's timleglerbasketballcamp.com, July 31st through August 4th, right up the road at the Gloucester County Institute of Technology. And Tim Legler will be there for more information on that. Tim, we appreciate the time as always, pal.
No, my pleasure coming on, guys. I'll catch up with you soon.